Hey guys, welcome back. So now that we've gotten clear in your vision, your $1 million vision that you have for your company, now we're going to hone in on your ideal role. What would look like both now and as you grow and scale into that $1 million company that you really want to build. This is really about getting crystal clear on not just the work you love, but the work that only you can do in your business. And it helps you also get crystal clear in all that work that you need to step away from and get out of that's really holding you back from getting there. So look, it's just like anything else. If you don't clearly define the role that you want to have in your business, you're going to wind up wearing a bunch of hats that don't fit your head. And so we don't want the business to define this for you. We want to give you the tools and the access to be able to clearly define the role that you want to live in. This doesn't mean it can't change in the future, but we want to know what it looks like now so that we can start to develop out your systems, tools, processes, and people and your priorities to help you get into that role much more quickly than you thought possible. If you do end up in that place where the business has now defined the role for you, you're going to end up burnout. You're going to end up doing a bunch of stuff that you don't do, and it's usually going to extend into your free time. So you're going to spend your weekends sending invoices. You're going to spend your weekends trying to gain new leads. You're going to spend your weekends trying to develop out the processes on the back end to make sure that you're servicing your clients in the way that you want to. Or you're going to end up reinventing the wheel with every single new client that comes on board because you haven't sat down and developed out the processes in the first place to make sure that it's scalable and you can move forward. So let's talk today about what you want your ideal role so that we can build the map to get you there. So I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, work is much more fun when you're not the one doing it all. You'll start to learn as you go through this content that I'm a huge Zig Ziglar fan. So I'll probably quote him a few more times as you work through all of this content. But it really truly is much more fun when you get to live in your zone of genius. So there's a great book out there called 10X is easier than 2X. And that's because when you're in your 10X place, you start to get rid of those 2X tasks that keep you stuck. So the 80% of the tasks that you don't need to be handling because it keeps you from being able to leverage your time effectively to grow to where you want to go. But in order to be able to step out of that, you've got to be able to delegate or automate. Those are the only two things that are going to get you out of those 80% of the tasks that you don't need to be handling. In order to delegate, we've got to be crystal clear in the roles that you need to hire for, what they look like, and what success looks like at each of those roles. We also have to have some of our systems, tools, and processes developed out on the back end in order to effectively turn it over. Otherwise, you're living in this place of, I have no time to train. I can't clearly coach my people. I don't have time to do that. And then you start to get dissatisfied with the quality of work that they're doing. And they're getting frustrated with you because you're not being clear in what you need from them. And that's when you start to see things fall apart with your new hires, with your virtual assistants and those kind of people. So it all starts, again, with you getting crystal clear in that role that you want to live in your business, that 20% that really drives the business forward, so that we can start to look at how can we get rid of that 80%. So let's start to map out your ideal role. So when you get into this document, again, hopefully you've already done your vision and you've already downloaded this, done the vision tab. So now we're going into your ideal role, into this tab. We're going to start to define what your $1 million ideal role looks like. So we're going to get clear on the work that you love to do. We're going to get clear on the work that you hate to do, that really drains you. We're going to get clear on where you want to operate and live in your business in the long run. So in the future, what does that look like for you? The first question that I want you to go through here is, what do you love doing most? Like, what tasks light you up and energize you? Why did you start this business in the first place? What part of your work really gets you into the flow? Flow state is one where hours can go by and you thought it was 20 minutes because you are enjoying the work that you're doing so much. What types of work gets you into that place? If you could design a perfect workday, what would you be doing? Would you be spending 3 hours of it networking and talking to other founders? Would you be spending the majority of it doing client work, like design work, or just discussing stuff with your clients? What would it look like for you to have a perfect workday? Would you be spending most of your time in strategy and development and really leaning into the CEO and visionary role? What does it look like for you? Number 2, this is super important and something that you really need to think about. Look, what work drains you or slows you down? What tasks are you like constantly avoid doing or putting off to the last minute? What do you procrastinate on? What are you resentful of every time it comes up? I had one client, she hated the bookkeeping and invoicing so much that she would put it off, and she even knew she was missing sending out some parts or some invoices to some clients because she hated it so much. She knew it wasn't accurate. She hated it so much she didn't care. She was willing to leave that money on the table. Where do you feel like you're holding the business back by staying involved? It's true. If you are trying to wear every hat and you have your hand in every aspect of the business, you are keeping it from getting to the next level. Where do you feel like your time and talents are not being well spent, that we could start to look at outsourcing or hiring some other people that have that specific skill set to really move your business forward? And what steals your time and energy without creating much of an impact on the business? I call this spaghetti noodle strategies. Like, where are you spending a ton of time and you're not seeing any kind of ROI? Where can you not prove to me that you should be spending your time? If there's no data to back up that you should be spending your time in a certain amount or a certain process in your lead strategies, then let's stop doing that one. Let's go with the one that works. If you can't prove an ROI, or you know that something is not making an impact, let's stop doing it. So let's start to identify what those look like. Number 3, what role do you want to grow into? As the founder, what title or function do you truly want in your business? It is okay to not want to be the CEO and to be the COO. It is okay to want to be the lead service provider and in the visionary, but again, maybe not drive operations. So what does that look like for you? What is the ideal role that you want to hold in the next 12 months? And I would even say in the next 3 years. What does that look like? How do you want to spend 80% of your time in the future? Not how are you spending 80% of the time? How do you want to spend 80% of your time in the future? What does that look like for you? What would being in your zone of genius look like for you on a weekly basis? We'll talk about time blocking in the future. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But if you could live in your zone of genius, what would that look like every week? Would it look like Tuesdays and Thursdays are for client calls, Mondays and Wednesdays are for strategy, and maybe Fridays are for sales? What does it look like for you? Let's talk about what that looks like. Number 4, what will you need to let go of to get there? What tasks, responsibilities, or decisions must you delegate, automate, or document to start to move into your ideal role? What systems, people, or tools are going to allow you to actually safely let go of those tasks that you don't need to be doing? And what mindset shifts do you have to make to be able to make this transition possible? I promise, I know for a lot of you, this has to do with either cash or time to train. Those are the 2 things that hold every single founder that I talk to up from making real progress and moving forward. But I also promise that it is so much easier to get out of than you could ever imagine. And we're going to talk about exactly how you can start to do that using Loom and AI. Those 2 things can help you start to build out your back end so that you can easily turn over and delegate to somebody else. And there are cost-effective ways to do this. And I promise, once you start to get yourself out of those $20 an hour tasks, you will exponentially be able to grow your business in a way that will allow you to afford this and so much more in the future. You just got to shift your mindset around that cash savings right now at this present time. So look, the goal again here is not just to list out what you like and don't like. Is actually to clearly define the role that you want to have in your business so that we can just start to develop out the roadmap to help you get there. It is so much closer than you think, I promise. Look, defining your ideal role is going to give you the blueprint for everything else that we're going to build together. It's going to define who we'll hire first, the systems that we need to set up on your back end, the processes we need to define. It's going to help us set the metrics that we need to start to measure to make sure that you are able to reach your goal. It's really how we're going to free up your time from that work that you hate so you can start living in a business that you truly love. So if your goal is to build towards $1 million, you cannot stay stuck in the weeds. That number is only possible when you start to be able to focus on the work that is really going to move and propel the business forward to where you want to go.